Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Dominic, and I want to start this off by telling you guys that nice guys truly finish last. I know you've probably heard that before. Well, I heard it too, but I realized that in the most heartbreaking way. I was supposed to be married in just a few weeks, but when I got this voice memo from my fiancée that was clearly intended for someone else, I realized our upcoming marriage was not going to work. Her message shattered every single belief I had about our relationship, about who she really was, and most importantly, about what I actually meant to her. And I'll take you through everything. From the first day we met to the moment, I realized I was just the safe choice she was settling for. 3 years ago, I attended a wedding that, looking back now, changed the entire course of my life. I was there at the wedding for the groom. We'd been friends since our early school days, and he was like a brother to me. The bride, on the other hand, had a circle of bridesmaids around her, one of whom happened to be Natasha, the lady who became my fiancée. She was close to the bride. I won't lie, she is cute. I noticed her more than once, and I'm pretty sure we caught eyes a couple times. We ended up having a few short conversations throughout the day. But here's the thing. Between speeches, dancing, and catching up with old friends, I didn't get her number. Something in me just said, "You messed up." Now, I'm not the kind of guy to chase shadows, but this one stuck with me. So I did something I normally wouldn't. I reached out to the groom and asked him to get her number for me through his wife. He laughed at first, told me I was desperate. But I told him straight up, if I don't even try, I'll regret it. Eventually, he gave in and passed her contact to me a few days later. Our first few chats were casual check-ins, slowly building up. I told her straight that I found her interesting and I wouldn't mind getting to know her better, maybe see where things could go. That's when she opened up and told me she was already in a relationship without trying to hide it or lead me on, and I respected that. She was honest. Said the relationship wasn't exactly smooth. But being in a relationship was enough for me to take a step back. I didn't want to complicate things. If she had stuff going on, then fine. I wasn't about to insert myself into it. But the more I kept my distance, the more she seemed to find little ways to keep the line between us open. She'd check in randomly, send a message out of the blue, or ask me questions that felt more personal than casual. I didn't know how to read it at first. Was she trying to keep me around just in case? Was she confused? Or maybe she genuinely enjoyed talking to me. I couldn't tell. But even with all that uncertainty, I didn't fully detach either. I stayed in her orbit, not chasing, but not walking away. I guess part of me was curious, and part of me hoped the situation might change. 2 months down the line, I heard she and her boyfriend had broken up. I didn't hear it from her directly at first. It just came up in conversation. But almost like clockwork, I noticed she started reaching out more, asking what I was up to, even hinting at joining me and my boys on our occasional trips. At first, I didn't know how to take it. I mean, I liked her, but I was trying not to read too much into things. But when someone starts inviting themselves into your world like that, you can't ignore it forever. So I let it happen. We started spending more time together. Sometimes it was just the two of us. Sometimes it was with my friends. But the point is, she was around a lot. And honestly, I didn't mind. It felt good. Then, after about 6 months since her breakup, we sat down and had the talk and made things official. She said she was ready, and so was I. From there, she really started opening up. She told me about her ex, said he was toxic, that he only showed up when it was convenient for him. Meanwhile, she called herself a lover girl. Said she didn't know how to love halfway. When she was in, she was all in. But the way her ex treated her made her feel like she was always chasing scraps of affection. I listened. And maybe it sounds naive, but I honestly believed I could do better by her. So I leaned into that as the days turned to weeks. I gave her my time, my attention, and my consistency. And people noticed. Friend would say things like, "You two just make sense." And they weren't wrong. On the outside, everything looked smooth. I won't lie, that made me proud. By the time we hit the 2-year mark in our relationship, that's when the idea of a road trip came up. In the past, I usually took a road trip with a few close friends. It's something I've done for years, and is kind of my own way of pushing myself out of my comfort zone, especially since I've always leaned more introverted. Natasha, on the other hand, was buzzing with excitement the second I mentioned it. She's the extroverted type who never says no to an adventure. So of course, she was all in. I'd already been thinking about proposing, but something about that trip just felt right. Maybe it was the combination of the open road, being surrounded by the people who meant a lot to me, and just feeling grounded in my decision. So I brought the ring, waited for the right moment, and asked her. Simple as that. She cried the second she realized what was happening, said yes without a second thought, and hugged me like the world had stopped spinning for a moment. I remember thinking, this is it, this is the kind of happy ending you hope for when you start dating someone seriously. Coming back from that trip, reality settled in. There were wedding plans to make and logistics to sort out. To keep things smooth and practical, Natasha moved in with me. It made sense. We were going to build a life together, might as well start sharing a space. At first, it felt like an exciting transition, as we'd wake up together, talk about anything and everything. As we made plans gradually, her sister Monica became more involved. Monica was either at the apartment or on speakerphone. And I get it, sisters are close. But there were moments when I couldn't tell if they were still talking about wedding details or just drifting into personal territory. One afternoon, I walked into the room and overheard Natasha saying to Monica, "Living with him in one house feels different." But she paused the second she realized I was there and switched topics. I didn't say a word about it, letting it slide. I figured she was still adjusting, going from seeing each other a few times a week to sharing everything, every day. We agreed to give ourselves several months before the wedding, and for the most part, things stayed calm. We never had any big arguments since she moved in. One evening, she even joked, "I honestly thought we'd be fighting by now, but it's been weirdly peaceful." I laughed, thinking that was a compliment, a sign that we were on the same page. I didn't realize how her words meant something I hadn't picked up on at the time. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything seemed to be moving smoothly. We had just wrapped up our bachelor and bachelorette parties. Hers was a full weekend in the city with her girls, complete with matching satin robes, custom champagne flutes, and 100 Instagram stories. Mine was more low-key, just me and the guys, a short cabin getaway with some grilling and drinks. It felt like the final stretch of single life before stepping into something bigger, something I thought we were both ready for. Our families were already making plans, flights booked, outfits sorted, hotel rooms reserved. Everyone was excited. I originally wanted a smaller ceremony, just close family and friends. But Natasha had other ideas. "It's just one day in my life," she said. "One day that I've waited for since I was a little girl. I want it to be unforgettable." And just like that, I let go of my quiet vision and agreed to her dream wedding. I remember the smile on her face when I said yes. That smile meant more to me than the cost or the nerves. I just wanted her to be happy. It was all moving fast, and I was starting to feel the pressure, but it was the kind of pressure you expect when planning a wedding. Stressful, yes, but exciting. But then just when everything looked picture perfect from the outside, I could never guess how bad things would get. On that day, I was still at the office, wrapping up some client files, when my phone buzzed. It was a voice memo from Natasha. We sent those all the time. It can be a small reminder about dinner, quick updates on errands, or those random "I love you" messages when the day feels long. So I didn't think much of it. But the second I hit play, I knew his message wasn't meant for me. There was no "Hey, babe" to begin the conversation. It was like I had dropped into the middle of a private conversation I was never meant to be a part of. It took me a few seconds to register what I was hearing. She was talking about me. My name wasn't mentioned, but I didn't need to hear it to know. She said she wasn't sure she wanted to go through with the wedding anymore. That while I was kind and good, there was nothing exciting about what we had. That we didn't even fight, and because of that, we lacked the kind of intimacy that made relationships feel passionate. She said she felt like she was settling, marrying the safe guy out of fear that the wild ones would break her heart again. She even laughed, saying she knew how awful she sounded, but sometimes wondered what it would feel like to cancel the whole thing and just breathe. I couldn't move. I sat with my phone in my hand. My mind tried to reject what it just heard, but it was real. I listened again, and it made sense that this voice memo was meant for someone else, likely her sister Monica, with whom they talk a lot about things. The way she spoke felt like a woman venting to someone close, someone she could let the mask drop with. The first thing I did was forward that voice memo to my drive. I don't even know why I did it, but I was scared she'd delete it, and I needed proof in case she realizes her mistake then delete. I looked down at the documents I was supposed to be working on and couldn't focus. I closed my laptop and just sat there. Going home didn't feel right. I wasn't ready to look at her, not after hearing that. So I went to my car and just sat in the parking lot. Hours passed and I didn't even realize it. I didn't call anyone. I just sat in silence, trying to figure out how the woman I was planning to marry could be talking about me like I was a placeholder. It wasn't just that she had doubts. Everyone gets nervous before a wedding. It was how she convinced herself that kindness and loyalty were somehow flaws, that peace was dull, and that loving her wasn't enough unless it came with chaos. I stayed there in that parking lot until the sky started turning darker and the office lot cleared out. I knew things were no longer the same. I later got home, and everything looked completely normal. Natasha greeted me in the usual way. She smiled, came up to me while I was in the kitchen pouring myself a glass of water, and kissed me lightly on the cheek. Then, as casually as anything, she asked if I'd seen her charger. And I just stood there, holding the glass in my hand, staring at her like I was looking at a stranger. I was still trying to understand how a person could sit comfortably in that kind of lie and keep living in it like it was air. I didn't say much, just mumbled that I was tired and wanted to sleep early. She didn't press it. She thought everything was fine between us, and that told me she had absolutely no idea what kind of damage she'd done. I got into bed and lay still, eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. I could hear her moving around in the house. I couldn't sleep. By 6 a.m., I knew what I had to do. I quietly got up, prepared for work, then grabbed a small bag, and packed only what I needed for some days. I sat down and wrote her a note. I kept it short, but I made sure there was no room for confusion. You should have sent that memo to your sister. I heard it instead. And I won't marry someone afraid to love me fully. You have 3 days to move out and return my key, or I'll be forced to involve the police. I placed it on the counter, right beside the coffee machine, where she always goes first thing in the morning. Then I picked up my bag, stepped out, and closed the door behind me. Later that day, she started calling. One call after the other. I let the first one ring out, then the second. On the third call, I finally picked up. She was already crying by the time I said hello. Her voice was shaking, telling me it was just a moment of doubt, just thoughts she never meant to say out loud. She kept saying she was stressed, overwhelmed, and had just needed to vent to her sister. I didn't interrupt her. I let her talk. When she was done, I said calmly, "Moments of doubt don't sound like well-rehearsed confessions." I told her if she missed the thrill of chaos or danger, then she was free to chase it. I wasn't going to stand in her way. So I ended the call before she could start begging again. I didn't want to hear more apologies that only came after she got caught. She didn't stop there. She went around trying to get other people involved. Friends, cousins, even her parents. Anyone she thought could talk sense into me. But the funny part was, she never told them what she actually said. Just that I heard something she never meant for me to hear. And I suddenly broke things off days before our wedding. That's the part that really got to me. She didn't even have the courage to own up to her own words. But I did. I had the memo saved. Before she deleted it from our chat, I had already backed it up and sent it to my cloud drive. So anytime someone reached out asking what happened or why I was canceling the wedding, I didn't bother getting into long explanations. I just sent them the audio. Let them hear it straight from her mouth. Her parents were trying to piece together what had happened. Her mom called me twice in one evening, and when I finally answered, she sounded more heartbroken than angry. She said things like, "Every relationship has rough patches, and cold feet before a wedding isn't new." I understood where they were coming from. I just calmly explained that there was no patch to fix. I told them I couldn't marry someone who viewed me as plan B, as the safe guy she'd settle for until her heart started craving chaos again. By the third day, Natasha moved out like I'd asked. She returned my house key, neatly placed under the door while I was out. In the middle of my pain, I realized I had narrowly escaped something worse than a broken engagement. I had escaped years of quiet resentment, of waking up next to someone who didn't truly want to be there. A week passed. I thought that was the end of the story. One late evening, I wasn't expecting anyone, but there was someone at the door. I opened the door, and Natasha was standing there. She stumbled over her words, said she never meant what she said in the voice memo, that she was just venting, that people say dumb things sometimes, that she didn't even know why she recorded it. I let her speak. I didn't interrupt. When she finished, I looked at her and asked one question calmly. If I never heard that memo, would we be getting married while you fake contentment? Her mouth opened slightly like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. Just silence. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't ready to be honest with herself, let alone with me. She tried to reach for my hand, said we still had time to fix things, that the wedding could be rescheduled, that we could make it work. I told her no. I told her everything was canceled and staying that way. She begged again, saying people make mistakes. I just told her this wasn't a mistake, it was the truth coming out by accident. And someone who only tells you how they really feel by mistake, that's not someone you build forever with. She stood there, stubborn, still refusing to leave. So I did. I locked the door behind me and walked away, leaving her on the porch with nothing more to say. That was the last time I saw her. Let me know what you think. Would you have stayed after hearing that voice memo? Or walked away like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this video if the story hit home for you.